All right. Good afternoon and welcome to the final installment of our monthly webinar series dedicated to promoting individual and collective well-being among school staff, educators, and administrators. We are thrilled to be here partnering with Kaiser Permanente, an alliance for a healthier generation, to bring you this informative and engaging event, which will be recorded and broadcast live on Facebook. To ensure that your experience is as interactive as possible, we encourage you to utilize the Q&A button located at the bottom of the Zoom tray to submit any questions you may have. We will do our best to address as many questions as possible during the Q&A session towards the end of the webinar. As we conclude this series, we recognize the crucial role that individual and collective well-being plays in promoting a healthy and successful learning environment. To build on the momentum of this webinar series and ensure that the importance of well-being remains at the forefront of conversations and actions in the education community, it's important to continue to provide education and resources on this topic. Furthermore, we hope that this webinar series has served as a space for you to reflect on your own experiences and connect with like-minded individuals who share your passion for promoting well-being in the school community. As we reflect on the success of this webinar series, one key takeaway is the importance of creating a culture of well-being in our schools. This involves recognizing that well-being is essential for both individual and collective success, and prioritizing it accordingly. By doing so, we can create a more supportive and positive learning environment for all. And with that, I'm pleased to introduce you to our speaker for today's session, Yasemin.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our final session of the individual and collective well-being among school staff, educators, and administrators series. This truly has been just a blast, and I'm so appreciative of the time and space you've shared with us, and I'm so appreciative of the collective learning that's really taken place as well. I just want to take a moment to really thank our partners at the California Department of Education, for all the folks who come together each month for the production. It really does require a lot of collaboration, lots of coordination, and the partnership is really, truly wonderful. And a big shout out to our partners at Kaiser Permanente, our colleagues who are always there with us and supporting us. And we're going to close our series today by talking about dependability and also about building trust among our teams. All the way from the beginning of our series, which was 7 sessions ago, which is incredible, we've really grounded in the notion that we are committing to transformative relationships, right? And today we're going to continue that. So we have a commitment of transformation, and we're going to talk about those folks who show up for us, who we show up for, right? And we're also going to talk about how to build more trust through navigating conflict. And so my name is Yasemin Corzo, and I am an Associate Director on the Whole Child Health National Advisor Team at the Alliance for a Healthier Generation. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm coming to you from Los Angeles, where it's nice and warm today. And I am so excited to be joined by my wonderful colleague, Christina.
Hi, everyone. My name is Christina Rodriguez, and I am a National Advisor on the Whole Child Health Team here at Healthier Generation, and I specialize in trauma-informed approaches. My pronouns are also she, her, and I also live in LA, and I am super excited to be here with you all today.
Thanks, Christina. And our work is funded and supported in partnership with Kaiser Permanente, and we work with Kaiser to provide a variety of resources and supports to both schools and districts across the country, all at no cost. And you can learn more about the variety of ways Kaiser Permanente supports schools with their Thriving Schools initiative with the link in the chat box. And so most of today's engagement is actually going to be through Menti, which is a wonderful, visual, fun way to engage. And it's also anonymous. So hopefully that will help you feel a little less of a lift if you're not comfortable using the chat box. If you would like to use the chat box, that's also available to you. And so I'm going to give you a minute to log on, and you can scan that QR code, or you can go onto your desktop. You can scan the QR code on your phone. You can do it on the desktop through the link as well, whatever feels comfortable for you. If things are resonating for you and you want to take notes, please do that. And also, I just want to recognize that it is 3:35 on a Thursday in April. So you may just want to be a little bit more of a passive participant, and that is totally okay. If you haven't gone for a walk today, this can be taken as a walking meeting. If you have a couch available to you and you just want to close your eyes and listen to our voices, please do that. And please just take what's resonating for you. And welcome from New Jersey. I love to see that. I love to see the engagement in the chat box as well. And if you find some side chats going, that is perfect. So keep doing that. And so what are we going to do today? We are going to dive into dependability. We'll define it, and then we're going to engage in a survey together to reflect on the dependability of our teams. And we'll also connect you to resources that will support increasing dependability. So today, we're going to give you lots of resources to check out with your teams or individually. And now you might be wondering, what does trust have to do with conflict? It has everything to do with conflict, right? Because every relationship will have conflict at some point, and how you navigate that is really important. So after we define and identify different workplace conflict, we'll engage in a framework and practice for managing that conflict. And we have a room full of educators, so you already know what I'm going to ask you to do. You're going to pin, what are you looking forward to today? And so it seems like a good half-half. Some folks are really here for dependability, some here for conflict, not to have conflict, but to manage conflict. And that's so wonderful to see. So let's get it rolling. I'm going to pass it off to Christina to start us off with dependability.
Awesome. Yeah. So let's go ahead and dive into our first topic, which is dependability on teams. But first, we want to find out what dependability means to you. So when you hear the word dependability, what comes to mind? Let us know on Mentimeter, and we will read off some of your responses. Okay, I'm seeing a couple answers come in. Being available when needed, reliable, trust, being able to count on others, consistency, that's a good one. Words match actions. Guarantee, follow through, having someone you can count on, doing what you say and say what you do, always being there. I'm seeing a lot of the same word come up, trust and trustworthy, and being reliable, having follow through, having each other's backs. Yeah, that's a huge one. Being able to trust someone, feeling good, being present. These are all such great answers. High standards, consistency. One I really want to call out, which is coming up, is building each other up, caring about the people present. That is a huge factor of dependability that we don't often talk about much. Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for sharing these great answers. I see a couple more coming in. Honesty is on here. Being supportive. That's huge. Transparency. Counting on someone who will not let you down. Yes, absolutely. So we're going to go ahead and share with you our definition of dependability. So when most of us hear this word, we probably think of someone who is trustworthy and reliable. Those two words came up a ton in the Mentimeter. Someone we can count on, someone who always follows through on their work tasks. This person probably also shows up on time, responds to all of our emails and phone calls. But it's also important to remember that the quality of dependability can also describe so much more than just performance-related tasks. As some of you also called out in the chat box, you mentioned having someone who's supportive, someone who's caring. And so a dependable person can also be someone that we know will always respect us, will strive to have good intentions, and contribute to a sense of psychological safety at work. And this term takes on an even greater meaning when we're talking about dependability as a team, because it takes many parts to make a whole. And when we're working as a team, it's up to everyone on that team to show up for each other in a trustworthy and reliable way. All right, so today we're going to walk you through a dependability survey to determine the level of dependability on your team. And together we'll get to reflect on the level of trust we have in our team members' work performance, but also how much trust we have in their principles and values that they bring to work. And I also want to call out that as we walk through these questions together, it's really important to remember that this survey isn't meant to call out people on your team who aren't trustworthy, but more so this tool is meant to help us sort of point us towards the work we need to do collectively to increase dependability as a whole on our team. So we'll be using our dependability survey resource today. This was emailed out to participants in advance. So if you happen to have it handy, you can use that to jot down your answers virtually, or if you happen to have printed it out, go ahead and grab your pen and have that handy. Or you can also just take the survey with us virtually through Mentimeter. We're going to have all of the questions up. Either way, you'll be able to access this resource on our Action Center in the future to use with your teams. All right, so let's dive into the survey. So as we're going through these questions, remember that all of your Mentimeter responses are completely anonymous. So the first question is, how much do you trust your team members to follow through? So if you feel comfortable, go ahead and let us know on Mentimeter. A 1 would be I strongly disagree. Somewhere in the middle, like a 3 would be neither agree or disagree. And a 5 would be strongly agree. So let's go ahead and see what's coming in. All right, it looks like we have a 3.8. That's pretty high. I'm seeing about, yeah, this number is staying pretty consistent. So it seems like most of us have a lot of trust in our team members to follow through, which is awesome. Sounds like you all work with some really great people. And so if you're someone who's kind of maybe putting in a lower number, some of those answers maybe reflect areas where team members aren't necessarily holding themselves accountable or aren't being held accountable by others. And if that's the case, it is totally normal to have feelings of resentment and frustration about that. But also remember that maybe if you're putting in a lower answer, that might be more reflective more of your work culture. So maybe you work in a place that's lacking in psychological safety, and so we aren't encouraged to trust and depend on each other in the first place. So just really important to take those things into account as we're looking at these numbers come in. All right, let's move on to the next question. So next is, how much do you trust your team members to bring good judgment when addressing issues or solving problems? All right, I'm seeing some strong numbers coming in. We're all the way up past 4, 4.2. Awesome. I'm going to give us a little more time to come bring these answers in. So it looks like, again, we're pretty solid at a 3.8. So remember too, if you are someone who answered below a 3 here, probably not many of us did, we may often find ourselves stepping in to help team members a lot because we don't trust them to do good work on their own. So that might be a good kind of red flag for you, that you don't have a ton of trust in your team members to bring good judgment. And this could also be, a lower number could also be due to a lack of structure and clarity in roles. Or it could be that sometimes we become overly attached to having things done in a particular way, and we're worried about losing control over a process or a task. And so we want to stay really present to that. I know that I'm guilty of doing that, and I often have to check in with myself and pull back. So it's always good just to reflect on how our own beliefs and feelings are impacting how we're answering this question. And we're still steady at a 3.7. That's awesome. All right, let's go to the next question. So next is, how much do you trust your team members to represent you and your organization well? So with this one, think about, do they engage well with others? Do they represent your vision and values? I'm seeing about a 3.6 again, which is a really good number. And so here too, if you're someone who maybe put in a number below 3, that could be related to maybe past events that shook your confidence, or it could reflect a larger team need to identify values and interests so that all of us are grounded in the shared values and work of the team, and we can represent the organization in the same way. So again, I see we're pretty solid at a 3.6 here. Awesome. Okay, next question. So this is related to how much we trust our team members' principles. So the next 3 questions will be about principles. So this one is how much do we trust our team members to maintain our own privacy and keep sensitive information within our team and not spread it to others? So this might include personal information I share, but also details about students and families that should be treated as confidential. Okay, so this one's a little tad lower, but we're still at a 3. So if you're putting in a number maybe at 3 or below, low trust in this area might mean that we stop sharing important information with our teammates just for fear of it being repeated elsewhere. So we might also be withholding information that could help our team work more effectively. And low numbers in this area might also mean we don't have shared values around privacy as a team, or maybe we need to clarify what types of information can be shared with others and what needs to stay inside the team. So I'm seeing now most of the answers are in and we're solid at a 3.2. Great. All right, so this next question is, how much do you trust your team members to respect the psychological safety of others? In other words, how comfortable do you feel being yourself on your team? All right, so I saw some 4s come in. Looks like we're at about a 3.5 here. Great. So low numbers here, if you're putting in maybe a 3 or lower, are maybe a cause for concern, right? So our brains are quite adept at letting us know who it is safe to be ourselves around. And if we don't feel safe at work, we really can't perform at our best. And team cultures where bullying, competition, or passive aggressiveness are rewarded are teams that need to take on the hard and really important work of building that psychological safety so that everyone can succeed. And it looks like we're solid at about a 3.5 here. Great. So this last question is, do you trust that your team members have positive intentions and motivation to do well at work? Seeing we're at about a 3.6, moving a little higher. Still going up. Okay, so we're pretty solid at a 3.7. So here, if you were putting in maybe a 3 or lower, some of those lower numbers here might be caused by 2 different factors. So either we don't know each other's values or motivations well, or we have reason to believe that someone on our team has a different agenda than our own. In the first case, our team can commit to more conversations about our values at work. And if it's a teammate with a different agenda, knowing how to have hard conversations when conflict arises can be very useful. And just want to say too that I really appreciate everyone taking the survey with us, putting these answers in. I know it can be really hard to kind of reflect on this and reflect on where you are as a team. And we're going to do, towards the end of this section, we're going to provide you with a ton of resources to help you kind of build up some dependability on your teams.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. And this is so interesting, right? Like just to see kind of where we are. And this is not about judgment. This is not about starting to be like, oh, this is terrible, or this is good. This is not about any of that. It's about really bringing more awareness, right? And so we know we asked you about what does dependability mean? So this is not what that question is asking. I would love for you to start getting specific about what does dependability look like in your workplace, right? So let's start to qualify some of those numbers that we saw. For me, it's really knowing that my teammates are going to show up and do the things they say they're going to do, but then also that they're going to let me know if something's not going to get done, right? So that it's actually, I want to get very specific about the behaviors you see, right? Something that I see my team members do is sharing agendas before meetings. That helps me with dependability a lot, right? So that I can depend on what's coming. I can depend on roles. So reaching goals, right? Meeting deadlines, yes. High performance that we can share with each other, right? That there's that openness, there's vulnerability. Letting me know ahead of time when they need to cancel. That's a perfect example, right? So we want to get specific about the actual behaviors. Working together to complete tasks, meeting goals together, not sharing confidential information, right? That was a little bit lower for this group, which is totally okay, right? Like it's not okay, but it is I just want to name that there are things we all need to work on. And it's also about our coworkers, but it's also about us, right? Like maybe we have some things to work on for ourselves. When there's dependability, there's less stress, right? Showing up on time, using time wisely. Don't visit during non-break times. Yeah. Checking in with each other, that collective care. Proud of accomplishing our personal and team goals. No drama. Everyone stays in their own lane, right? Like we're there to collaborate and be together, but we're not there to kind of bring each other down. And so thank you so much, and practicing grace. That's beautiful. So this next question I'm going to ask, I do not want you to share with me. Please do not put it into the chat box. You can keep it for yourself, but I am going to ask you to just think about your teams and think about the people you're working with, right? And I want to just bring us back to the fact that we are working towards transformational relationships, right? This means we're going to work on some relationships, maybe with the folks who are the most dependable, right? Or maybe there are some folks on our teams, individuals, that are not as dependable. And so I'm going to ask you to really keep one of those folks in your mind as we think about strategies. And we're going to present you with some strategies and resources that you can engage in to strengthen the relationship and to strengthen that dependability, because there's always lots of opportunity to grow. So on the next few slides, we're going to share resources with you in the chat box, but then also in the follow-up email. So you're like, don't worry if you don't catch it. I do just want to name that you will have them available to you. So I'd like for you to think of that person who maybe you want to increase dependability with on your team, or maybe it's someone who's really showing up well for you and you just want to continue that relationship. The first step we have is to clarify roles and expectations. So sometimes we think we're being clear, but it's all out of assumption, right? So this tool that we're going to share about the educator workload is going to give you a framework called RACI. And there you can identify who is responsible for a task, who is accountable, who is supporting, who's going to be consulted, and who's going to be informed. And it might seem like super technical and a bit boring, but it really does help to get clarity and then also consensus when you're working with someone. And that consensus and ownership of a task can build to more trust and buy-in. We have talked about feedback in other sessions in our series, and feedback is everything, y'all. I love feedback. We need feedback. And it's important to build that trust, right? And the feedback toolkit that we're going to be sharing has frameworks you can work through individually, but then also as a team to strengthen your skills as a giver of feedback, but also as a receiver of feedback. And all of this is in service of cultivating curiosity and coming from a curious place when people make mistakes, right? Because mistakes are going to be made. You're going to make them, I'm going to make them. And coming from a place of curiosity can be one of the kindest things we do. And this goes into the empathy that we started our series on so many months ago. And values are one of my favorite things to talk about. And I come back to this often because values are a roadmap of who we are, right? Our ethics and how we show up to the work. And a conversation about values and how to honor each other's values and how to be dependable about honoring each other's values can really help build a relationship or even rebuild relationships. And we know that gratitude is one of the most important things you can practice, right? It is so important to show gratitude, especially when people are showing up for us, right? So those folks who you identified as being super dependable, right? When was the last time you said thank you? When was the last time you wrote a little note or gave a little gift, right? It's so important to give folks that positive reinforcement. And finally, which we're going to get into deeper, is modeling healthy conflict. right? It's inevitable that we're going to have conflict, and to be a dependent teammate or a partner in the work, right? To show up and say, you know what, we're going to work through this together, can be incredibly powerful. So before we dive into talking about conflict, I would like to ask you, as you're thinking about your teammates, about the folks you're working with, what's maybe one strategy you want to try, or maybe you want to continue doing because you already do it, right? So is it clarifying roles and responsibilities, or giving effective feedback, cultivating curiosity about mistakes, identify group values, express gratitude, or model healthy conflict? So we got conflict is going up, expressing gratitude, which is wonderful. It's so good for you. Like, you just end up being better, a better human at the end of it. So we have curiosity about mistakes, roles and expectations, effective feedback. The best thing is that if you do any of these, it will most likely help the dependability and also the culture of your teams, right? So that you can always take these tools and take them back to your teams and have conversations about them and really commit to strategies together. So gratitude is up top, good. It should be, because we got to say thank you. And then roles and everything else is a perfect spectrum of what folks want to engage in. So that's fantastic. And I'm going to pass it off to Christina to help us move through conflict.
All right, so we're going to move on to our second topic for today, which is workplace conflict, probably everyone's least favorite topic. I know this can be a tough one, so just try to hang in there with us, and I promise that it'll be worthwhile. All right, so we've probably all heard of this iceberg analogy before, but I think it's really helpful, so we're going to revisit it. So when we think about conflict, we really want to envision it as an iceberg. There are some pieces that rise to the top that can easily be seen, but there are those underlying pieces that aren't visible. And if we're not being thoughtful and paying close attention, we could completely miss them. The parts that we can easily see are the behaviors. So this could be an unpleasant email that you get, or maybe it's a lack of a response. Maybe it's a harsh comment or a short comment, or maybe an unanswered text message. So those are things that we can really easily see. And then from those behaviors, we typically make assumptions about that person's thoughts and feelings. Maybe that they don't like us, that they're really trying to be difficult on purpose. But it's important to remember that these assumptions are just that. They're just stories that we're telling ourselves without much evidence. And so it's our job to investigate below the surface and to find out the real why behind the behavior. And maybe we won't always know for sure, but we can at least stay curious. So maybe when my coworker was short with me this morning, it wasn't because they didn't like me, but instead it was because they had a really rough morning of their own. And that response was just the best that they could do in that moment. So we never really know what's underneath the behavior. So again, it's really important not to make assumptions, and instead we want to give others the benefit of the doubt. We want to always try to respond with a stance of curiosity.
All right, so I'm going to ask you all to give me a thumbs up if you have ever had conflict at work. All right, we got, like, I should be getting, we have how many folks? We have 232 folks here. I should be getting 232 thumbs up because, yeah, it's going to happen, right? Because conflict is inevitable. I love all these thumbs up everywhere. It's coming everywhere, right? Why? Because we're human, and humans are messy, right? We make mistakes. We sometimes are undependable, right? Even when we do our best, we're going to mess up. We try to control things when we have a little control, right? We love, we're loud, we are everything. And so there's going to be conflict. And that hopefully doesn't cause distress, but it's just kind of normal, right? And at work, we can find two types of conflict: the relational and task. So relational is personal, right? This is deeply emotional stuff. It often does foster resentment, and it can lead to a hardening of one viewpoint. Now, if we do this in a healthy way, if we actually like navigate the relational conflict in a healthy way and move through it, that can actually lead to some profound transformation, right? And the task conflicts are more, it's in the name, task-based, right? They are emotional on the surface. So what that means is, at first it might seem like, oh, this is so emotional. But then when you take a step back, and you're like, oh, okay, it's not that deep. It can foster creativity and problem solving in the right navigation of it, especially when we're coming from a place of curiosity. And it can also lead to diversity of thought, right? Because we want people to challenge, right? It can't be the status quo all the time. And so when folks challenge something, it could start to lead to a bit of conflict. But the thing is, challenging each other is hard, right? And navigating that conflict can be hard. And it can also leave a lot of room for what Christina mentioned as assumptions. And I'm going to call that storytelling, right? So I'm going to walk you through 2 examples of what I'm talking about, because task conflicts can easily turn into relational ones pretty quickly. So in this example, we have the blue person. The blue person asks the green person, hey, did you see my email? The green person responds, I saw it, but I haven't been able to read it yet. Okay. So now the blue person does not ask another question, does not, engage in what might turn into conflict. Rather, they take this opportunity to make up some stories or start to make assumptions, right? And so the blue person says, oh, she never responds to me, right? All by themselves. And so a deeper subtext of what that might mean is she doesn't care about me. She doesn't think I'm important. She doesn't value my time, right? And so over time, if those stories are not intercepted by a conversation or by clarification, that perspective of the blue person can really harden, right? But the reality is that the green person hasn't had a chance to respond, to be able to say, oh, you know what, actually, I had to pick up my kid. I really wanted to respond to it. So sorry, we'll get to it faster next time. In a second example, the blue person says, I didn't see myself on the invite. The green person responds, oh, I didn't realize you wanted to be there. So now they both go off and start telling themselves some stories, right? The blue person says, of course I do. Why would I want to be there, right? And the green person says, well, it's not like you showed up the last time, right? And so they're off in their world telling stories. And this is such a missed opportunity, right? Because they could come back together and have conversations and work through the conflict, because it's clear they actually have so much more to say to each other than just that. And so I just want to name it that we are all storytellers, right? I will speak for myself. I am a storyteller. I don't know about you, but I'm going to guess you are, because it is totally normal. It's normal to make assumptions, because conflict is hard and it's uncomfortable, and it's easier to just go off and make up the stories. But if we are committing to transformation, if we are committing to making those relationships stronger, then we got to be able to stop and become more self-aware. And so I'm going to ask you to share with us, when do you find yourself telling stories? And there is no shame in this. This is not a judgment moment. We're just going to name it, right? When I'm frustrated, tired, or hungry, yes. When I have already felt let down by someone. When I feel hurt or left out. When driving, oh my goodness. It's as if some people were put on the road just to make my day really difficult, right? Like, I'm with you. When I forget who I am, when I feel overwhelmed, when I'm triggered, absolutely. When I'm not receiving the response that I'm expecting, when things get difficult. Yeah. For me, it's when I feel insecure, or my ego is coming out and saying like, hey, how you doing, right? And I actually find it a lot easier to stay curious with the folks who have actually intentionally built relationships with me. And with folks who I don't have a stronger relationship with, I kind of shut down, or at least I feel more brave to hold space for those folks. When I feel undervalued, ignored, it's not a story, it's a reflection of reality. Yeah, that's true. You know, that's a really good point, where if you're finding yourself starting to tell stories or starting to be reflective about like what an experience is, that can be indicative of the situation at large. And that's just bringing more self-awareness. So if you are able to bring that self-awareness and to name it, that's really powerful. All right, thank you so much for sharing. And we're going to walk you through a tool that hopefully will help you navigate those stories and those assumptions.
Thanks so much, Yasmin. I am also a storyteller and really appreciated seeing all those responses come in, and I can really relate to a lot of them. So like Yasmin said, we've got a resource that you can use to help manage conflicts with your team members, regardless of which type of conflict you find yourself in, relational or task related. And this is called the Relate model. This was also emailed out to participants ahead of time. So if you happen to have it handy, you can pull it out, take some notes on it, or just go ahead and follow along with us virtually. This resource can also be downloaded for free from our Action Center for your use after this webinar, and it is available in English and Spanish. Great, so this is our Relate model, and we'll walk you through each step. Regulate, extend, listen, articulate, talk it out, and emerge. Remember that many of you are probably already engaging in a lot of these strategies, so we're just giving you words for them and a framework to follow. Your first step in any conflict is going to be to regulate or to find your grounding, because conversations never go well when you confront an issue while emotions are still really high. So if either party is feeling dysregulated, you won't be able to think clearly. So it's always a good idea to ground yourself before doing anything else. And there are tons of different ways that you can regulate depending on how much time you have and the setting that you're in. My main go-to when I'm trying to self-regulate is some kind of repetitive motion, because it's a really great way to regulate the nervous system. So sometimes that just looks like squeezing Play-Doh or a stress ball in my hand. Maybe it looks like rocking back and forth in my chair and just taking some deep breaths. Or if I have more time, maybe it looks like going for a walk. So we want to know through Mentimeter, how do you self-regulate before difficult conversations? What works for you? Now go ahead and read off some of your responses because we're all different. Meditation, great. Deep breathing, that is always a winner for me. I prepare and write out talking points. I've done that one too. Breathing exercises, walking, prayer, clarifying the facts. That's a really good way to stay grounded. I really appreciate that answer. Having a good night's sleep, absolutely. Coloring, walking in nature, venting to a safe person, getting support from someone else. Prepare notes to make sure I say what is necessary. Drink tea, music, taking a shower. Rest and hydrate, so important. Those are things that often go overlooked. I pretend to have the conversation until I stop getting emotional. That is a really smart one. I love that. Role play, standing out in the sunshine. That makes us all feel better. I do the 5-year check-in. In 5 years, will it matter? That is such a great one. I'm going to start doing that one more often. Pen clicking. Yeah, that's another really great repetitive motion that's accessible to all of us. Probably all have pens around. Find a solitary place where I can think deeper. Share with a trusted person. Outline what I need to make sure to say. These are all such great answers, and hopefully some of us got some new ideas from this. I know that I did. We've also got tons of ideas for you. We have tons of self-regulation strategies listed on our virtual Me Moments Hub. And these are quick and easy strategies that you can try yourself. You can also print them out and share them with your team. If you're a teacher, you can share them with students. And so that's going to be, again, on our virtual Me Moments Hub, and that link will be emailed to you all. So after you've regulated, your next step is to extend an invitation to the other person, asking if they would like to talk. So some really easy phrases you might use are, hey, I'd love to follow up with you about that. Can we schedule a time to talk through it? Or I'd love to hear more about your perspective on this issue and to share mine with you. And remember that the other person may not be ready or willing to talk through it. So you really have to be prepared to hear a no. And if you do hear a no, just accept it and move on. And in this step, you may really need to expect some non-closure here. And then if your invitation to talk has been accepted, that's great. Congrats. Your first and main priority in that conversation is simply to listen and really listen with a genuine sense of curiosity. So to stay focused on listening, you might want to let the other person go first. Maybe let them share what they think happened during the conflict, what they're thinking and how they're feeling. You can show them that you're listening by affirming what they're saying, maybe asking a question for clarification if you're still having trouble understanding their point of view. Listening can be so hard for some of us. I know that it is for me. And so I'd love to know what makes it hard for you to stay focused on listening during difficult conversations. So go ahead and use Mentimeter to pin the option that most often gets in the way of you listening. So is it hard for you to listen because you want to be right? Maybe you're busy coming up with your next response while the other person is talking. Maybe it's your feelings that get in the way. Or maybe it's just the other person that makes it really hard to listen. Or maybe you feel hurt, don't trust the other person. Or maybe you just weren't ready to have a conversation in the first place. So go ahead and pin the image that best describes what gets in your way. Oh, and it looks like nobody can pin.
They can't pin.
Okay, that's all right. So just kind of take note for yourself. So this is a really great slide
You
for
can
you.
put it in the chat too if you'd like.
Great. You can put stuff in the chat box for us and we'll read that out. But also it's okay just to take note here. I know I'm looking at some of these and I could probably say all of them at one point or another, get in the way of me listening. So I'm seeing we've got a 3 and a 5. Someone saying numbers 1 through 8. Absolutely. So many different ones coming in. So 2s, I'm seeing a lot of 7s. A lot of people just aren't ready to have these conversations yet. A lot of people are also saying 2s, coming up with my next response. Seeing some 3s and 6s, which is emotions and mistrust. And a couple 4s. I'm also seeing some other answers come in. Multitasking. Yeah, that's a really good one. I am guilty of that as well. So no judgment here. Don't be too hard on yourself. These are things that we all do, totally normal. And I really appreciate your vulnerability here.
And thank you, Christina, for being so flexible. And I'm sorry for being not so great as I'm the one who created the Menti. So I told you all, we're going to mess up and giving each other grace is just wonderful. So A, what does A stand for? It is articulate. And I love that some of you actually put this in as part of your regulation activity, because it's so important to be able to speak your truth while navigating conflict, right? So some of you said that you have talking points. You write down what you want to say, right? So that you don't forget, right? Other folks even wrote down, some things that get in the way of listening is the fact that you might forget what you're trying to say. So maybe having some paper there to write it down so you don't feel that stress. And it's really important to articulate what you have to say. And so keeping it impact focused and really speaking from the I can be very important to navigating that conversation. And then talk it out, right? It's never as simple as one person says something, the other person says another thing, and then we're like, okay, goodbye, everything is resolved. That is not real life, right? So continuing that conversation and continuing to kind of identify what are the things you want heard and what are the ways that we can kind of move forward. And this is also a time to come to some agreements, right? What is okay moving forward? What may not be okay? What are you agreeing to as folks who are engaging in moving through the conflict? So you can ask questions like, can you help me understand whatever? Or I see your point of view. And can I ask a couple of questions around what you just stated, right? Just to ask more clarifying questions, or even repeating back what you hear to folks so that they feel validated and heard as well. And then finally, the important part about conflict is that emerge, right? That you can move through and out of conflict so that you're not sitting in it, that you're not holding on to things, right? And this is also an opportunity to give that person the chance to show up for you, to do the things that you all agreed on. And if you're finding that you have emerged from conflict and it's working, right? And like, oh my goodness, it's going really well. That's when you extend some gratitude. And that's when you say, hey, I see you and thank you so much for following through with what we talked about. And then there are those times where we are going to mess up, right? We're going to engage in conflict resolution. We're going to navigate it. And then people are going to be people, right? And it's not going to be a big deal all the time. And so sometimes one of the things that we can do is extend that grace. So a lot of you put in the chat box or put into the Mentimeter how much grace you allow yourself and also others, right? And one of you, actually, I'm reading it because I took notes, so I didn't forget. Somebody wrote, part of your regulation activity is wishing everyone involved well, right? Extending love, extending empathy. And that extension of empathy is one of the kindest things we can do for ourselves, right? And so we're going to actually do that right now together. And I'm going to walk you through something called a loving kindness meditation. Now, I know this is not for everybody. And so if you are like, thank you, but no thank you, this is a great time to get some water, to move around if you'd like. But if you would like to engage in a loving kindness meditation, I invite you to find a comfortable spot. And so if that's sitting down, just allow yourself to find some stillness in your seat. If you're standing, allow the floor to hold you. If you're walking, just listen to my voice. And if it feels comfortable and available to you, just close your eyes or lower your gaze. And start to pay attention to your breath. Don't hold it. Let your belly go. And as you find some more stillness, I'd like for you to think about somebody who's causing you just a little bit of stress. Maybe someone you identified as not being the most dependable. Not somebody too difficult. And just imagine that that person is sitting in front of you. Look into their eyes and say to yourself, just like me, this person is facing a great deal of change and uncertainty. Just like me, this person is juggling a lot of responsibilities. Just like me, this person wants children to succeed. Just like me, this person is making mistakes and learning. Just like me, this person is doing the best they can. And I invite you to look a little deeper into that person's eyes and say, I wish you happiness and health. And with just one more breath, open your eyes and come back. And just notice if you feel a little differently. And if you don't, that is totally okay. And sometimes these words that I read to you don't resonate with me in the moment, right? And I need to have my own language around it. And so I'd like to ask you to write a sentence for yourself, for this person. Just like me, and you get to fill in the blank. And you can put that in the chat box, or you can put it into the Menti. But what meditation would you write for this person? For me, sometimes it's just like me. This person wants to be well. Right? Just like me, they're doing the best they can right now. Just like me, they are human. This person is struggling too. This person wants to be happy and well. This person wants to succeed. This person has suffered a loss. This person needs to be given grace. Just like me, they are growing. Just like me, this person strives to act in compassion. Just like me, this person needs to retire soon. Yes. Just like me, they need grace. Just like me, they have the best intention. Just like me, this person wants to be seen and heard. Just like me, this person is part of a human race. And sometimes one of the simplest things that can be for those really tough folks who sometimes it's difficult to give a loving kindness meditation to, one of the things that I was reminded of many months ago was just like me, this person was also a child, right? And that's I can get behind that. That I can be empathetic to, right? That each one of us was a child at some point. And just like me, this person wants grace and empathy and are not weak, or they need grace. And just like me, I don't understand what they might be going through personally. I swear, every single time we do something like this, you understand the assignment so well, and you just always show up. Thank you so much for your vulnerability, for your answers in the Menti, in the chat box. Thank you to those of you who did not participate in the Menti or the chat box, and you took exactly what you needed. Hopefully this session was, helped you get grounded a little bit, and also got you thinking about some dependability and also some conflict navigation with the folks that you work with. And thank you so much for engaging with us today and for the past 7 months. It really has been truly a wonderful journey with you. If you engage with us one time or all 7 sessions, you are wonderful. And we are always looking for feedback. It's really important to know if this content resonated with you, if there were any highlights, if there's any room for improvement, right? We want to hear from you, and we actually take your feedback and incorporate it to a lot of the content that we're building. So please do take a moment to either scan the QR code or click the link in the chat box. It takes about 2 minutes, and it really means the world to us. And today, right now, or when you receive the follow-up email next week, I encourage you to join your school or district in our Healthier Generation Action Center. Inside the Action Center is the Thriving Schools Integrated Assessment developed in partnership with Kaiser Permanente. And you can self-assess current place or school practices that are going well or maybe need some improvement. And each question will have an associated resource for you to start making changes in your environment. And you can always email us or call us for support. We are real humans. We are here to support you. We're a big team of folks ready to help you make the changes in your learning environment. And thank you so much for the space and time you've shared with us today over the past few months. We know you're carrying so much, and it's not lost on us that, sparing an hour to engage with us, it was probably not easy for you. And so you matter so much, not because of what you do, but because of who you are. And we hope to see you very soon. And take care.
Special thank you to Yasmin for facilitating all of these sessions over the last few months. It's been such a joy to work with her and her team. I want to just take this opportunity to thank you all for joining us in this important discussion on individual and collective well-being. I hope you've found today's sessions informative and valuable. I have seen questions in the chat about recordings. The recordings will be available. We have been posting them all on our website at this on the CDE. The first 5 sessions are up. We are doing backgrounds, technology stuff to make sure that they're all accessible and available for all types of different users before they get posted. So there is a little bit of a delay, a couple of weeks before posting. So just know that those are coming available. We also appreciate your feedback. And again, I would like to reiterate, please do provide feedback through those surveys. It really helps to inform how we grow and develop in this work. Lastly, you will receive a follow-up email next week with all of the resources that were used in today's session. Thanks again for joining us today and wishing you a wonderful summer.